Hi, I'm Kohrra.
And I'm Rohan now.
Welcome to The Long Take. This week we're discussing the new Netflix series, Kohrra, which comes from Gunji Chopra, Digi Sisodia, and Sudip Sharma, the last of whom you probably know from Paatal a few years ago, actually. This one is like a mix of Paatal and Udta Punjab, which is both projects Sudip has worked on. What do you make of the show?
It took me a while to get into it. Like the first couple of episodes, I was very unsure about it. But then episode 3, I guess, onwards, I was fairly involved. And yeah, not bad. It's okay.
So you're saying you'd enjoy Paatal more than?
100%. Paatal is like miles ahead of most Indian streaming shows, including this.
Right. Yeah, I think I have a similar reaction. Although I think it's probably closer for me, like in terms of that, because Paatal I didn't enjoy like the investigation as much, which I felt like I enjoyed that one more here. Also because I think Paatal is like took on a lot of more things. Like it's obviously a much more broader show, right? It's covering a lot more thematically than this show. Which is, this one is like leaner. It's just like about, like for me at least, more about like toxic masculinity. Paatal is covering everything about caste, religion, the nexus between politics and media. Like the list goes on. And some of the things it doesn't do that well. Like the media stuff, it felt like wanting in that space. But I feel like this was, because it was leaner and meaner in a way, I was able to like follow it more like in sense, and like not have those sort of sagging parts which like Paatal had for me. But yeah, I would still rate Paatal higher because of just like the ambition and then the set execution mostly. But yeah, it's a close second for me, this one.
I mean, yeah, there was this episode, I don't remember which episode it was, but there was one episode of Paatal which is a complete detour from the main story. It was in Punjab, right? And that itself felt like a more grounded kind of redo of what Sudip Sharma had done in Udta Punjab. Udta Punjab was fairly mainstream Bollywood.
Yeah, Udta Punjab, he seemed like he had to give in to certain things that were required of like a big screen movie.
Yeah, and that's why that episode of Paatal was so good, and I still remember it.
Also because he's like Paatal, he had full control, right? Udta Punjab, he's still he's collaborating with Abhishek Chopra.
Yeah. This one I felt was more, I mean, it's definitely not like masala entertainment, although there are moments in it where you're like, ye kyun kar rahe ho this?
Yeah. There's some questionable choices every time they do. Like they get a little, for me, they got a little dramatic in places. I was like, you've mostly been understated. Like, why would you play this scene in this tone now?
So the show is mostly understated when it's dealing with characters, but then when it kind of becomes focused on plot and let's move this here, let's move these puzzle pieces around, how do we get from A to B, then it becomes like more conventional in terms of tone, and it becomes a little broader. But I felt like the character work was unusually understated, right? They're willing to kind of take pauses and let scenes breathe and let you kind of work things out on your own, whereas plot-wise,
that's an aspect I enjoyed a lot, is that it's as you said, actually, it's spoon feeds sometimes in plot, like narrative reasons, which just says things. I'm like, you don't need to say that. I could have understood if you had given me a few more minutes. But the character work,
which feels like I don't know, the speculation purely, but it feels like something that you end up with when you have multiple cooks in the kitchen. Like, we need to make this more straightforward of how do we do that, as opposed to someone being like, ye character scene hai, and let's just allow it to kind of play out.
Yeah, my speculation was almost like, that these people have worked with Sudip Sharma, right? Digi Sisodia, I don't know, I couldn't find anything on him online. At least Gunjit has worked with Sudip Sharma since Udta Punjab, right? This is a writer who's he's seen Sudip, he's like, okay, he has caliber of doing something on his own, and he gave him something, because Paatal worked, he's successful, people are coming to you, Clean Slate Films is asking you what's next, and he's like, okay, this guy has a script, maybe we can do that, or he has an idea at least. So she's like, Kunji wrote everything, and Sudip came and he's like, okay, fix that, improve that, change this. He's helped here and there, but he doesn't have the time or the he's not, doesn't want to devolve into that kind of nitpicking on a whatever micro level. He's also busy with Paatal season 2 and other stuff, I'm sure. So it's like almost as if, certain parts he was able to like contribute more on, which like then feel like, more sort of fleshed out. But the parts he was not able to like spend time on, those feel rougher.
Yeah, who's to say? I mean, we have no idea.
So everything I just said, I just made up in my head.
But it could be like, like I don't know, watching an interview or listening to whatever, some Vikram Motwane thing where he was like, when they were making Sacred Games, Netflix offered to like fly in like white people.
Yeah, that was a thing that both were, even Amazon was doing a lot in the early years.
Yeah, so this feels like something like,
it's got a little workshop.
Yeah, let's fly in like Sudip Sharma to kind of give you notes, and then he can do his own. Anyway, but that's all there. I mean, the other thing that stands out immediately in a show like this is surprisingly the performances, but that's also down to just how much time they're willing to devote to these people, which allows these actors to kind of really sink their teeth into it. And I think both the leads especially, were really good.
Yeah, I feel like actually he benefits more, Suvinder, just because like I think Balvi's character is a lot more on the page than like, Garundi is. Like, I don't think Garundi gets as much as the other guy.
He doesn't. But then both of them together, they work really well, and individually
they're like a portrait across generations in a way, right?
Yeah, it's a very like old-fashioned setup. Like 7 whatever. There's one.
Like one guy who's been there like through it all, and the one guy who's sort of nascent or early stage in his career.
Yeah, but there's the tragedy of it is that you sense that the younger cop will end up like the older one.
Yeah, no, they clearly want to like signal that. Otherwise, you wouldn't pair them up in a fictional setting like this.
Yeah, but then also just the casting is interesting because Suvinder Vicky, his face is just so like, it's almost like Andy Murray, like the Boj of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, there's clearly makeup stuff done because in the flashback, that is actual Suvinder Vicky. The other stuff, the entire show, that's full makeup and like just, cosmetic and just like his fake beard and everything. Because they had to age him up because he's not that old.
Even though the rookie cop, I don't even know if he's a rookie, but whatever, Karundi, he doesn't get as many like scenes to himself, but there is like a personal kind of arc that he has also.
Yeah, he's always like they're trying to portray like what sort of, in a way, the current generation of Indian men are sort of going through, right? Like sort of devoid of opportunities, right? That's what he's going through, right? Didn't really have a future, like even though he started or whatever, uske baad, there's nothing out there for him, which is basically India today. Like there's a lack of just like career opportunities. And they need to buy his way in, right? And these are like not even like rich people. So if we buy our way in, now he's living in debt. To like just not just like his superiors or whatever, but like because they know he bought his way in, but now to his own family. So the psychological toll that takes, of every day being sort of told that you weren't really good enough to be here.
And then that's why his arc is so, because he comes into his own in these 6 episodes, right? He like steps up to the plate. It's almost like he's finding a birth.
That's why that scene exists where he infiltrates, like the Udta Punjab ka sort of like mirror scene. That's crucial because like that's his peak now. Like he is gone from like not really like trying to solve the case and just like picking up random dudes and beating them up to be like, oh wait, no, this matters and I need to save the guy who's sort of vouching for me.
I enjoyed all that. But then an interesting point that kind of in parallel to this character is that the show is set in Punjab and it's mostly in Punjabi. And I felt that very impressively, without kind of beating you over the head with it. It kind of tells you not just about India as this character is meant to represent, but just the state of Punjab also.
Yeah.
What Udta Punjab failed at. I
think that's what I saw. I was like, I feel like that's the reason I feel like Sudip was involved. Even from the get-go, like he saw this, or he was like, Ganji probably just like read the treatment out to him. And he was like, holy, like, we can do something here. Like we did that in 2016 or whatever in Udta Punjab. but our understanding has come like whatever improved as my understanding has improved as a screenwriter. It's been 7 years. We have like long form now. We don't have to make it in 2 hours, whatever, 2.5 hours. And he saw like potential there to like, do better than his own.
Also, yeah, something that we complain about with these things is that often when you're making movies or shows or whatever about a certain societal issue, they end up becoming about that over everything else. And that is, I don't know if by design or not, but Udta Punjab became about the drug menace after a point.
Yeah.
And this one, it feels like it's still about these characters, but then the world is so rich that you kind of pick up on things along the way. Now, maybe this is because
I think one of the mistakes Udta Punjab did was that it approached it in a anthological fashion, right? There was like this dude, this rich rap dude from this society of Kohrra, this impoverished girl trapped in like, and held confined, like, and then their stories are intersecting. It's not organically, and here everything stems from one incident. It's like this death happened and everyone is connected to it because this guy is investigating, these guys are the victim, this is the suspect and stuff. So that's organic. It's already baked in. You're not trying to connect disparate threads,
Yeah. I mean, there is like a Tommy Singh stand-in in the show also. Which is the first time I was like, oh, that he doesn't belong here. Or at least he doesn't belong here in the way that this has been written, That character can exist, but then just the way that those initial scenes, like later obviously he goes through the ringer. But then those initial scenes were like, oh, this belongs to your Udta Punjab universe. Like, isko hatao yahan se. Because it is like, it's a very like drab and dour show, right? Because but
and what I like thought was brave was that they're willing to not just stay in that like tone, but then push their characters deeper. It's not like the characters are like, like terrible people and they become better. Across the episodes, they're becoming worse in front of our eyes.
Yeah, which is why the flashback is so important, especially when they choose to kind of reveal it.
Yeah.
Is by that time you've kind of formed a bond with these characters, and then at that time to be like, ye dekho.
You thought he was like, because like that's the only thing going for Balbir in the early thing is that, like he wants to do his job right? Like, he's like not willing to get swayed by his superiors and be like, let's close the case quickly. This he wants to do right. So that's why you're sort of like, you're like, okay, yeah, he means well in this regard. But then they try to keep breaking it down. They're like, oh, well, he didn't actually always do his job, right? Sometimes he even killed the actual people who were helping him, just because he needed like a favor for his family. Oh, wait, actually, he didn't even care about his family. He used to beat them. I'm like, what are you doing? You are destroying the character.
And then the woman that he's involved with, Skawala Jo revelation happened.
It's not coming out of a place of goodwill. It's coming out of a place of guilt, you realize.
Yeah. But I think it's smart also, right? Because then by that time you're like, okay, so you're giving me all these reasons to not like him, but then let me examine why I'm still rooting for this person to succeed, right? Because he's clearly like you said, he's guilty, he does have an evolution at the end. He changes. And then, in this kind of corrupt universe that these characters exist in, he's probably one of the few people along with his partner who wants to do the right thing. For whatever reason, maybe he's just pura life usne kharab cheezein kari hai, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's almost like, in a way, it's like a mini redemption arc for him, right? Like he's like, maybe this I can salvage. I haven't been able to do anything in my life. I failed with my family. I failed with my daughter. Failed in my career. Like, even though I like did favors, I'm a sub-inspector. But maybe this I can salvage and do the right thing by this.
The redemption arc almost, it's like a backdoor redemption arc because this show isn't designed. It begins as a fairly conventional like crime drama / murder mystery. But then it turns into kind of this redemption situation with this character, right? Which is what makes it better than the other nonsense that you see. Like,
because initially like Garundi and even Balbir, they're ready to like, just pin it on Sakar or whatever, whoever they can put their hands on and be like, isne kara, the end, isko yana razor mila, khatam kahani.
But then that reminds me of also that a moment that I'm sure you remember, and that you will remember not just because we just watched it, but even months later, is that scene in which he apologizes to all the people that he could have framed.
Yeah.
That scene will not exist 90% of the time in any similar kind of show or film, right? That scene is designed maybe as just a reflection of where we've come. That some people are kind of aware of these things, and sometimes just that acknowledgement is enough that the cops he beats up people.
And this is a common thread between the shows that Sudip is making now, right? Like he's not in it to like be like police are self-righteous people who are like, they might be like doing a little bit bad, but they eventually do good. No, he's like he's showing them as they really are. Hathiram also, like he's in Paatal, he's like beating people, and like there's no justification for it. He's not even getting like information out of them. And the similar here, like Garundi is treating them so badly. Like, I mean, Sakar, like, because our courts don't function, but like in this show was set in America, first thing Sakar would do after like being let out is he would sue the police.
Yeah, I mean,
doesn't matter if like Garundi apologized to him, like he still went through like mental torture for weeks or whatever. I don't know how long the show runs.
But yeah, that scene kind of stood out to me because then the camera is just like panning from one character to the other, and all these people were at some point, could have easily been just assigned the blame and taken fault.
Anyone, right? Because that's what like and that's the other comedy then comes is that we just don't like find suspects and like people like, hi, this is a criminal. We make our own criminals.
And just I don't know if in that scene Garundi is realizing it for the first time or if he has found the courage to acknowledge it for the first time and he had that realization earlier. But whatever it is, that scene works because it transforms that character in our eyes, right? If you don't have that scene, then he's just another dude who did what other people in his position do.
Yeah.
And maybe after this he might not.
Yeah, actually, for a show that is this dark and like grim, as you said, actually ends on a quite like almost upbeat fashion. Like
the seven is like on an upbeat fashion.
I was like, what? Like this is like you're okay. I understand you want to like end this way. It just felt a little sudden to me because like I'd gone through like whatever 5.5 hours of like being hit in the face with like this country is burning and we have no way to get out of it if we do not let these men run this country forever. And suddenly like, wait, no, maybe these men can be reformed.
Yeah. I mean, but that's also an interesting point because who needs to be reformed in this country, right? Like, according to a story like this, everybody, right? Even the people who are behind bars and the people who are putting them behind bars.
Yeah.
Everyone's just crazy. And those एक दो जो वो superiors आते हैं बीच में वो तो और भी crazy लोग हैं.
Yeah, because they're fully apathetic to the entire situation, right? They do not care if you solve the case. They just care that it's done and they can hold their press conferences, which is like, that is such a smart way of like, we keep complaining, right? Like in India, man, like can't like you do politics without like getting banned or like censored. That's just a smart way of doing that because you basically have conveyed the strategy of like India's current government, but just through an analogy of like police superiors doing it.
Yeah, because obviously someone has told them to also get.
That's how it works, right? Like everything today India is obsessed with, the way our country runs, is that image, perception, and how we are seen. That's it. That's all it is about.
Yeah, and I was just very impressed with how like Udta Punjab almost got banned.
Yeah.
For
it was a rare years, when like Anurag Kashyap was fighting and eventually he just gave up. He's like, Abhi to you can't help now.
Yeah. I mean, it's not his responsibility to fight other battles.
Back then he was still like, in his like teenage years or whatever.
But us time as you said, this one gets away with so much because it's understated. Udta Punjab had Punjab in its title, right?
Yeah, Udta, like which is a drug reference. They're not being coy about it.
And that movie was, like we've already discussed, very in your face about the drug problem in Punjab. Here, it's not in your face, but then you get the sense that this state is in bad shape. People don't talk about it, but it's in bad shape. People are fleeing, which is also something that the show touches upon. Like all the youth has
and that's the reason the whole NRA like angle to it exists is to show that there's no future here. That's why people want to get out. Like in the end, like the only depressing part of the epilogue is that the bride, she's still doing it. She's doing the same thing again, but just with some other dude from Canada.
Yeah.
Because she knows and her family knows there's nothing good here.
There's nothing. So you first guy you find from Canada, you get shot.
अगर नहीं work करा UK, you try and try again until you get out of this country.
Yeah, it's very...
That's very depressing in a way. Like, it's like, oh, हमें शादी हो रही है, but I'm like, but the message you're basically sending right now is not a very happy one.
Yeah, which is also another smart thing the show does. They could have done that one thing and been like, okay, yeah, this is real, this happens. But then to do it again, to put her through that cycle again, is then it's about getting the point across, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of things it does well. A couple of things it doesn't do well. Like, for instance, I don't 100% know what happened in the plot. Like, I know Kaun mara, but then I'm completely like, what? Paul is the person who died. Liam is his boyfriend. And Paul's uncle is the one who hates his own son. The son who wants to impress his father, who is Paul's uncle. The son hires goons to kill Paul?
Son first hires that bus driver, right? Who's on the absconding forever in the show. Keeps running and like, so that's, son hires him. Like, he basically, I think, that's just threatening, right? I don't know how he's supposed to convey that message. Like, if you ram someone's car, I don't know what that's supposed to like mean. That's the first thing he does. And then he hires the same people, or does he hire different people to like?
Very confusing. Ye pura cheez confused ho gaya. I thought that someone died because of a road accident.
No one dies. It's just, I think it's
no one dies.
You know, what's the word? Like tactic, right? You just like pressure.
Scare tactic.
No, scare tactic. Sorry, yeah.
No, I thought that this is a botched murder attempt.
Oh. I mean, yeah, it could be that. I read that, but I never saw it as that. Because like the way they show it in the CCTV footage or whatever, like, very conveniently they add CCTV there. Is that he ran the car from the side, which is very deliberately, but then they just crash, and then because they have a rich car, they get saved. Like whatever, airbags get deployed, I'm assuming.
Acha, or the second thing that I'm not fully following is that there was this one drug peddler dude, right? Who Paul and Liam meet.
Yeah, when they're the one they don't pay, right? The one who chases after them on his broken
And
scooter.
they seem, in those flashback scenes, they seem jovial and happy and celebrating something, right? And then the drug peddler person tails them. And then he finds them after Liam has killed Paul, right?
Yeah.
But then he doesn't see Liam on whatever, because Liam's been taken away or whatever, right?
No, Liam has been taken away. Liam has walked away, called his mother, left a voicemail, and then died, right?
No, but the how does he end up in the well? Someone takes him away and puts him in the well though then.
The truck driver and the Chotu who gets like psychology scarred and then blurts out everything in the hospital.
Correct. So they do that, and then the drug peddler comes in after that because he doesn't see like the Liam.
Yeah, he doesn't see anything. Yeah. He just sees like him bleeding out. So it's probably been like, but at one point they tell us that the doctor says, right? The forensic doctor says it would have taken him 10 minutes to like bleed out, but uske baad bhi they faltu mein killed him. So the drug dealer has clearly come 10 minutes before like whatever, like the 10 minutes after, within the span after Liam hitting him with the razor or cutting him.
Okay. Kind of tragic. Oh, also we didn't discuss Gori Mem from Lagan. She's very good.
No, I want to stay on this like events of this night because like forget like the logistic of it which you just discussed. I found a problem with it that how Liam's mood shifted so soon, right?
I was confused.
At 8 p.m. or whatever, they're in the bar, right? Enjoying or whatever drinks. Sakar shows up, whatever, like, bullies them and be like, leave like Veera alone. And then randomly, Liam pockets the razor. Why? Because they show us, they give a shot of like Liam looking at the razor and be like, maybe I should take this. Like, why would you take this? What made you think that you might need it later? So he's already started planning something?
That's weird because like I remember from the drug peddler interaction, they were in a good mood and then they were...
Which happens after the restaurant, right?
After the restaurant. And then even...
So he already has a razor on him already, which
all that
like the blood of Paul. Which Sakar has used. So why is he in a premeditated move to like do something to either like is he self-protection nahi hosta? Like he doesn't think Punjab was like whatever insecure, like he has to have a blade on him. Like that's insane. He wouldn't have come to the state otherwise.
Maybe why is he there in the first place? Because he clearly expects Paul to cancel the shadi, right? But he's
okay, maybe that's
he's resigned.
My understanding was that they will stay married. You know, it's like the 80s situation or 70s situation in America. Like he will marry her, they'll go to the UK, but he will be his actual side piece who is actually important.
No, but then he says that to Paul, tells him that in the field, right? कि नहीं शादी तो करनी पड़ेगी मुझे.
But I think what changes in the field, at least my understanding what it was that Paul is like, now this arrangement won't work. Where I stay married to her, but I love you on the side. I will have to be faithful to her. I think that's what sets him over the edge.
Oh.
He's like, no, because she's like, no, leaving her family, leaving her country. I'm like, bro, why do you care about this random woman or whatever? I think that's what set him. He's like, Liam is like, what, bro? So I will have nothing now. I won't even have you as my lover.
Okay.
The weird thing that what it is work for me is like, I'm like, he pocketed the razor without having any motive. And then randomly, again, like in 10 seconds, instead of like confronting each other as lovers, he turns to murder in a second. Like, we never get a history of Liam, right? We don't even know who Liam is as a person.
So we just get one scene when they were children in the UK.
Yeah, where Liam is just like a guy from the window looking down. So I'm not told who Liam is. I don't know, he's short-tempered. If you had just given me that kind of information, I would have bought, him like randomly taking out the razor and slashing someone's like throat like in 2 seconds.
I suppose, yeah, it is kind of confusing.
But yeah, that was like something that sort of, I was like, it just seems like you've done the nights, like events, the murder night after you've cooked up the other stuff.
Yeah, you had to kind of retrace your...
Yeah, because like, obviously that's not important, right? That's just the instigating event. That's what the show is about. But yeah, it matters when you start showing these things us because they show us, like, they give us a very proper chronological event in whatever this episode.
But just the way that the finale, that the final reveal is kind of directed, it's one of those, again, like fully like dramatic moments where you're maybe expected to not pay attention to the details and just go in the flow and like take emotion kya hai us scene ka, which I feel they kind of do occasionally to kind of cover up all the plot stuff. Like ye samajh nahi aa raha tha, but they just heighten the emotion now in this scene and that you don't pay attention.
The other thing thematically for me in that sense was, it's hinted at from the beginning, but it's only confirmed in that reveal is that they're actually gay, right? Both of them, and they're together. And then I'm starting thinking like, wait, if you basically had 2 like LGBT characters in your show and you like killed them in the beginning just to like, for Steve and Paul's sake? Like, does that really not really matter because Steve and Paul are not important to the show and not even Paul and Liam are important, so like it's fine if you're doing that.
I mean, yeah, that's interesting point. But then I do feel the show's sympathies are clearly against like people like Steve.
No, I think no. My problem isn't that you like if they need to die for narrative reason, it's fine. But like the way this is used, which is the trope is called bury your gays, is that your straight characters, which are Steve and Paul, their lives they reflect back on what they've done.
Who's Paul is gay, right?
Paul and Liam are gay. Sorry, Steve and what is the uncle ka naam? Dad ka naam? Sorry, the uncle. Yeah, my bad. Whatever. So yeah, they after their death and looking at what they've done to their sons, they improve their lives, right? So that's the problematic trope, is that you kill LGBT characters and the straight people reflect on what has happened and then improve their lives and move forward with their lives and they live on.
Yeah, I suppose.
But yeah, the fact that everyone is such a minor character and because everyone's like the big character, Balbir and Karundi and his daughter and stuff, I was wondering if like, is it okay if this doesn't matter? Like,
I don't know. I feel that the show was very clearly like Steve is not a nice person. People of that generation are generally not nice.
Who is a nice person in this show?
I mean, those two were like they had a genuine affection and love for each other, right? And the tragedy is that one person killed the other. Not even killed, right? Because then the show does a little bit of a cop out there.
Yeah.
Where like final blow to us bande ne mara na, like
which is that is only used for as to complicate the investigation. I don't think that's done to like for any thematic reason.
To not absolve Liam.
No, I think that's just done to like make the investigation complicated because then our Garundi and Balbir are chasing that peddler guy for a while and they're like, wait, patthar bhi tha, razor bhi tha, kya ho raha hai idhar?
That's complicates that, because we don't really know Liam enough to feel bad.
Exactly.
He is. But yeah, anyway, it is kind of tragic.
Like that is basically a red herring, which is like a thing they also use episode 5 mein.
Times.
Yeah, and that one I hated. The episode 5 one, because the entire thing is going towards wrapping up this investigation. And suddenly they're like, you remember that Balvi's daughter's boyfriend? Uska baap apparently is very influential, he's kidnapped. I'm like, really? you think this is important right now to the show?
But it's also like just a mechanism for Garundi to kind of step up, right?
Yeah, I think without that, otherwise Garundi does not really have the same arc because he doesn't have a heroic moment.
He doesn't have that. I mean, I'm sure they could have thought of something else less complicated.
Like maybe someone else can kidnap him. Like why does that useless construction guy boyfriend, which for me he's probably the only nice guy in the show. But why does he have to be involved in his like influential political?
Although I do buy it, like I buy that happening.
Yeah,
it's not out there.
It's just like in the events of the show, and you're watching a 6-episode series, and everything is coming to a head in the finale. That's like the most unexpected thing.
It is, yeah, but I'm willing to kind of overlook that because like the old uncle, Don uncle, doesn't have any idea about Balbir's investigation.
There's an investigation going on. Yeah, he just thinks like he's the main character of the story.
Yeah. Balbir also chose mid-investigation to threaten that dude.
Yeah, for like no reason at all, just to be like, I am the ruler of this house and you must live under my
How does he change, by the way? What makes him the daughter's attempt?
Yeah, I think.
I suppose.
Yeah. She doesn't try to kill herself, then he doesn't change. She's against
Balbir, what were you doing? Didn't you?
क्या कर रहा है तू 30 साल से?
हाँ, like अब तेरे को realize हो रहा है कि वो खुश नहीं है. What are you doing?
कब से खुश नहीं है तुझे अब realize हो रहा है? She had to like, and she has to take attempt on her life, and then she should tell him. She tells him in words, literally everything.
Yeah, it's not even instant, right? It's after they have a conversation and everything, and then he does this dramatic like reveal, like, oh look who I called, haha.
Like you're not a good dad suddenly. Like you've done 1,000 terrible things, you've done one good thing. I think you do like a lot more. So keep at
that. Again, that's one of those like things that if you sit down and like logically, like, oh, so you had to time the first husband and the grandson's departure from the hospital.
Yeah, that's like a Joker and Dark Knight thing, right? Like these things don't match up after a while. It's just like, how can you plan so much?
You can, but then again, it does that hyper emotional stuff so that you're like, oh, guess what?
They carry you by the emotion of the scene, not the logistics, as we have discovered.
But yeah, overall, it's nice. It's nicely done.
Yeah.
I was kind of about to be like, oh no, another one of those, like after episode 1. But then I'm glad I stuck with it.
Time to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all for this episode of The Long Take. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Threads now on The Long Take Pod. You can write to us at thelongtakepod@gmail.com. Please leave us a rating and a review wherever you see this episode, and we will see you next week.